Hi friends, this week we'll do interests. So interests is a very simple topic. There are very few concepts in this, but there can be some complicated questions as well. So let's see what is the agenda of this topic. We would do some basic terms and basic concepts, and then we'll directly go to few questions, right? So without wasting any time, let's go to the terms. So there are few terms which you would find in these questions. The first term is principal, second is interest rate, third is the time period, fourth is amount, then there is simple interest, then there is compound interest. So invariably you would find many of these questions in few of the questions, in almost all of the questions rather, right? So what is principal? Let's go to a question and understand it. So the question says, I have ₹1000 with me, which I invested in Bank of India at 9% per annum simple interest for a period of 1 year, right? So 1000 rupees I had with me. This is my principal. So this is my principal, which I invested at 9% per annum. So just keep a track that the interest rate is given as per annum interest rate, right? This means that if we invest for 1 year, we'll get 9% over what we invested, right? So this is per annum interest rate. There can be some interest rate which is per half year, right? So this means that if I invest 1000 rupees for 6 months, I would get 9%, which means if I invest amount for 1 year, I would get two cycles of 9% and 9%, right? But in most of the questions you would find the interest rate given to be per annum, right? So this is interest rate, and so this is equal to R, right? And finally this is equal to time period. So I invested 1000 rupees at 9% for 1 year. What will I get, right? Obviously I'll get my 1000 rupees back, and I will get some simple interest which is denoted by SI, and which is given by P into R into T, right? We'll convert R into fractions, right, because it is in percentages. So we'll say P into R by 100 into T, right, which is equal to 1000 into 9 by 100 into 1, right? So this is what? 90 rupees. So this 1000 rupees are earning 90 rupees for me, right? So that is the simple interest which I earned. Had it been 2 years, they are invested for 2 years, so we'll multiply it by 2 and they would earn 180 rupees. So how much amount would I get after 2 years? 1000 plus 180, which is equal to 1180 rupees. After 1 year, what I am getting is 1090 rupees. So this is very simple, plain application of simple interest formula. Now let's go to second question, which says, I have ₹1000 with me, which I invested in Bank of America at 9% per annum compounded annually, right? So compounded annually means the interest is added to your account just once a year, right? For a period of 1 year. What will I get, right? So the amount which I get from a compound interest is given by this formula, 1 plus, since R is in percentages generally, so we'll convert it into fractions, this raised to power T, where T is the period for which it is invested, right? So in this case, A would be equal to 1000 multiplied by 1 plus R is 9, so it would become 0.9, right, raised to power T is 1, right? So which is equal to 1.09 into 1000, right? 1090. So you would see that this is just equal to what we got from simple interest. So is there any difference between simple interest and compound interest? Let us see after doing this example. Here again I invested 1000 with Bank of India at 9% compounded annually for a period of 2 years. What will I get? Now let's apply the formula which says amount is equal to 1000 into 1.09 raised to power, it would be raised to power 2, right, which is equal to 1.09 multiplied by 1.09 multiplied by 1000, right, which is equal to something like 1181 point something, right, 1181 point something, right. So when we invested the amount 1000 in simple interest, what we were getting is 1180. Now we are getting 1181 point something, which is higher than what we were getting in simple interest. So what is happening? The difference between simple interest and compound interest is, over the years, whatever we get as simple interest, right, whatever is compounded in our, whatever is added in our account, right, so it says compounded annually, which means after 1 year the interest which was 90 rupees was added back to my account and my new principal became 1090, right, and over this 9% interest was charged, which was again simple interest, right, to get this. So if you into 1, the time period is 1, right, so if you do it, it would become 981, right, 98.1, right. So over this 90 also the interest is charged, whereas in simple interest the interest would be charged only on the principal and not on the interest which is compounded or which is added to your account, right. So we can break this as well and see the difference. So what we were doing is, in simple interest we were calculating this for each year, right. So for first year this was this, for second year again it was this, but now for compound interest the interest would be charged on the interest compounded in previous years as well, right. So this would become 90 plus 8.1, right. So this would become 98.1. So in second year the interest charged would be 98.1 and not 90, right. So total interest charged would be 90 plus 98.1, which is equal to what? It would be 188.1. so the answer here should be 188.1, right. So this is the interest which is garnered after 2 years, which is higher than what is garnered as simple interest. Now if the investment is done for 3 years, interest would be charged for third year as on principal, right, as well as on the interest which was garnered till now, right. So total interest would be this much, right, and then we'll add it to 188.1 to get the total interest which was garnered till now, and the total amount would be 1000 plus that interest, right. So after 2 years the total amount would be 1000 plus 188.1, which is equal to 1188.1, right. So this is the amount which I receive after 1 year if I add, if the interest is a compound interest. If it is simple interest, it would be 1180. So the difference between simple and compound interest is that whatever interest is added to my account next year, that becomes the principal, right. So the new principal changes whereas in simple interest the principal is what I initially invested. So that's the only difference, right? So even if we look at the formula again, right, so if the amount is invested for just 1 year, can we write amount is equal to P plus PR by 100, which was what we were getting as simple interest, right? Now amount for second year would be, so in second year this becomes the principal, right? This becomes the principal. So amount would be, let's take this common, so amount would be principal plus PR by 100 plus interest on this amount, right, which is equal to P plus PR by 100, this whole multiplied by R by 100, right, into 1. So we'll not take that. So this is the amount which we would get, right? If you simplify it, what would you get? So this PR by 100 and this PR by 100 becomes common. You would get P plus PR by 100 multiplied by 1 plus R by 100, right? Now even if when you take a P common as well, it would become 1 plus R by 100 raised to power 2. So this is the formula, and this is how we get the formula. So this is 1 plus R by 100 raised to power t. If you do it for 3 iterations, you would see you would get P plus R by 100 raised to power 3 and so on and so forth. So this is the link between simple interest and compound interest, right? Now let's go to the last thing, which says that I invested the same amount at 9% compounded biannually. This means this interest is compounded biannually, but interest rate is per annum. So interest for 6 months would become half of it. So our interest rate I would become 9 by 2, right? Because it is, the interest rate is given annual interest rate, but it is compounded biannually, which means 4.5% is compounded biannually for the period of 2 years. Now when the interest rate compounded biannually, it means the time period becomes 4, right? So in each year the interest rate is added to your account 4 times. So 2 times, and for 2 years the interest is added to your account 4 times. So we'll apply the simple formula, which is 1000 into 1.045, right? Not 09 but 045, this raised to power 4, right? So whatever is the answer would be our final amount. So this is the difference between compounded annually. So there can be compounded quarterly as well. So this means interest would be added to your account every quarter, right? So an interest rate would also become R by 4, right? So you would see that there is a difference in answer as well. So these are few basic concepts, just few, these are what is required to solve any question on simple interest as well as on compound interest. Let's go to few of the questions and see if we can solve them or not. So the first question says, if I invested rupees 3000 in a fixed deposit in bank, I received 5400 after 8 years. What is the rate of interest if the amount is invested on a simple interest? So you have around 1 minute to do this. Try and solve this. So let's see how to solve it. I invested 3000, which means our P is equal to 3000, and I received 5400, which means A is equal to 5400, right? So it is invested in simple interest. So simple interest is this, my amount minus principal, which is equal to 2400. The time period is 8 years rather. So we have to find R. Just plug in all these quantities in the formula, which is simple interest is equal to amount invested multiplied by rate of interest by 100 multiplied by R by 100. We don't know R. This multiplied by time period, right? So what you would get is R is equal to 10%. If you solve it, you would get R is equal to 10%. So this was very basic question, right? Let's go to question 2, which says if I invest a certain amount to get rupees 408 as compound interest for the period of 2 years at 4% per annum, right? So here it's not given that it is compounded annually or compounded biannually or compounded quarterly. So when no such information is given, you assume that the interest is compounded annually, right? Which is the general case as well. What would have been the simple interest on the same rate for 2 years? So you'll get around 1.5 minutes for this question. Try and solve it. So let's do it. It says that I invested certain amount to get 408 as compound interest for 2 years at 4%, right? So had it been invested at simple interest, what would be the simple interest? So if I invest certain amount on simple interest, let's say for 1 year, what I would get is a simple interest SI, right? Now this would be added to original principal, and for next year the compound interest would be calculated on P plus SI, right? If you see very closely on that P for the next year, I would get SI, right? Plus I would get certain interest on SI, which would be 0.04 times SI, right? So and this would be equal to CI, the compound interest, right? So 2.04 times SI is equal to compound interest, right? Now compound interest is given to be 408. So we can see that simple interest would be 408 divided by 2.04, which is equal to 200. So once again, if we invest the same amount in simple interest, what we would get is SI plus SI, where SI is the interest which we get after year 1, right? Now after year 1, SI would be added back to principal to calculate the compound interest. So after first year, in the second year, what interest would I get? I would get SI plus interest on this SI, which is 0.04 SI, right? So this is the total interest which I get in the second year. This is the interest which I get in the first year. When we add them, they would be equal to the total compound interest, right? So compound interest is 408, therefore simple interest is 200, right? So this is again a simple one, but an important question. Let's go to question 3, which says a person invests in all rupees 2600 at 4, 6 and 8% per annum simple interest. At the end of the year, he got equal interests from each of the investment. How much money did he invest in each type? Again, 1.5 minutes to do this question. So try and solve it, and then we'll do it together. So let's do it. Let's say we invest A, B, C in 4, 6 and 8%, which means A plus, because total amount invested is fixed, which is 2600, so we can say A plus B plus C is 2600. Now the interest garnered on 4% would be 0.04 A, right, into 1 obviously, which is equal to 0.06 B, which is equal to 0.08 C, or we can say 4A is equal to 6B is equal to 8C, right? Or we can say 2A is equal to 3B is equal to 4C, right? Right? And if we put it equal to K, let's say, we'll get A is equal to K by 2, B is equal to K by 3, and C is equal to K by 4. So A ratio B ratio C would be equal to 1 by 2 ratio 1 by 3 ratio 1 by 4, right? And now if we have to convert it into the numbers, right, let's multiply it by 12, right, the numerator by 12, all the 3 terms by 12. Let's put K is equal to 12 here, right? What we would get is, this is equal to 6, this is equal to 2, and this would be equal to 3, right? So the ratio would become 6 ratio 2 ratio 3, right? So this is the ratio of A, B and C, which means we can say A is equal to 6x, B is equal to 2x and C is equal to 3x. and a plus b plus c is equal to 2600. So 6x plus 2x 8x, 8x plus 3x is equal to 11x, which is equal to 2600, right? And thus we can find x and thus ABC. So this is how we do this question. This is again a simple question. Finally, a question where we are compounding half yearly, right? The question is simple. The only catch here is that we are compounding the compound interest half yearly, right? So just try and solve this. You have 1 minute to do this. Before that, in the previous question, b would be 4, right? So 12 divided by 3, it would be 4 and not 2, right? So it would become 13, right? 13x is equal to 2600, therefore x is equal to 200, right? So let's go to next question. Try and solve it. Now 1 minute for you. So let's do it. Here amount is given to be 11025. R is equal to 10% per annum, which means if it is compounded annually, compounded half yearly, it would become 5% per half year, per 6 months. Time period is equal to 1 year, which means 2 half years, right? So just plug in the formula, which is a is equal to p raised into 1 plus, so p here we have to find, so 11025 is equal to p into 1.05, this raised to power 2, right? So 1.05 multiplied by 1.05, which would be 1.1025. P is equal to 11025. Thus P becomes 10,000. So I invested 10,000 to get 11,025 rupees after a year if it is compounded half yearly and the time period is 1 year, right? So had it been that the interest is compounded annually, what we would have got is 11025 divided by 1.1. that would have been our principal, and you would see it would be less than 11025, right? So it would be 100, it would be, sorry, more than 10,000, right? So it would be 10002.2. so it would be 2 rupees more than 10,000, 2.2 rupees more than 10,000, right? So you would see that here, if we invest for more time periods, or if the interest is compounded half yearly or quarterly, the total amount which we would get would be higher, right? Because when that interest is added to our principal, it would also garner us more interest, right? So compound interest helps us garnering and increasing our investments exponentially, right? So that's why it's important to understand in which kind of interest are we entering. It's always better to invest in compound interest kind of system. So that's it for our interest chapters. I hope that you got the basic concept right, and we'll do an exercise on it. Thanks for watching this video and all the best.